You think your grocery store is safe? Clean aisles, familiar brands, a neatly packed tray of chicken, maybe some ground beef for the week. But behind that plastic wrap could be a ticking time bomb. In 2025, Americans are eating more meat than ever before, yet behind the scenes, the system is breaking down. The U.S. Department of Agriculture expects record high meat consumption this year, but quality is collapsing just as fast. Reports of spoiled meat, contamination, and deceptive labeling are rising nationwide. So ask yourself, when was the last time you actually checked what's under that fresh label? Is the beef in your fridge already turning gray? Is that chicken pumped with salt water and bacteria? Could your next family meal send someone to the ER? Why are respected grocery chains cutting corners? How did your local butcher become a risk you can't afford? And which stores are quietly pushing the worst meat onto unsuspecting shoppers? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And today, we reveal 6 grocery stores selling the worst meat in America this year. You'll want to hear every name because your next mistake could already be sitting in your refrigerator. Number 1. Dollar General. Dollar General may not be the first place that comes to mind when you think about buying meat, but in 2025, it has quietly become one of the fastest growing grocery retailers in America, with more than 19,000 locations from coast to coast. It's often the only nearby store for families in rural towns and under-resourced neighborhoods. But the real story isn't just about convenience, it's about the dangerous cost of buying meat in a place that was never meant to sell it. At the heart of the problem is infrastructure, or more truthfully, the lack of it. Unlike traditional grocery stores built with food safety in mind, many Dollar General locations were originally designed to sell cleaning supplies, paper towels, and soda-not-perishable goods. Their refrigerators and freezers are often outdated, undersized, and prone to malfunction. In 2025 alone, public health departments in at least 6 states reported that Dollar General was cited for cold storage violations at a rate 3 times higher than competitors. That's not a red flag, it's a 4-alarm fire. Former employees describe a chilling reality when freezers fail, and they often do. Staff are left scrambling. Sometimes meat gets moved to another unit, if one's working. Other times, it sits out in warm temperatures for hours. And yet, in many cases, that same meat gets put right back on the shelves once the freezers are working again. No thermometer checks, no quality inspections, just a quick glance to see if the label is still readable through the frost. It's the food safety equivalent of crossing your fingers and hoping for the best, but it doesn't stop there. Much of the meat Dollar General sells is frozen, pre-packaged, and mysteriously labeled, instead of listing the farm or supplier. Many products simply say packaged in the USA. That doesn't tell you where the animal was raised, how it was handled, or how far it traveled. One independent consumer report in 2025 found that more than 40% of Dollar General meat items had no clear sourcing information at all. Some of it came from overseas facilities with poor regulatory oversight. It's meat that's taken a world tour before ending up in your freezer, and that's not something to celebrate. Then there's the issue of expired meat. In just the first few months of 2025, Dollar General was fined in 14 states for selling expired food, mostly meat products. One health inspector in a southern state found a package of ground beef that was more than 23 days past its sell-by date. That's not a minor slip-up. That's a bacterial hazard waiting to happen. Perhaps the most unsettling part, Dollar General knows exactly where they're setting up shop areas where people have no other nearby grocery options. Their business model thrives in food deserts, where folks might have to drive 20 or 30 miles just to find another store. For seniors on fixed incomes, or families with unreliable cars, it's not a matter of choice, it's survival. And Dollar General is counting on that. While company spokespeople claim they're improving equipment and training workers, their financial disclosures tell a different story compared to national averages. Dollar General spends 63% less per store on refrigeration upkeep. That's not just a gap, it's a deliberate saving strategy at the cost of food safety. So if you find yourself in one of these stores, do yourself a favor, grab the canned goods, boxed pasta, and anything that doesn't need a fridge. But when it comes to meat, walk away. No discount is worth a trip to the hospital. Number 2. Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's has long felt like the friendly neighbor of the grocery world, with its tropical shirted staff, handwritten signs, and upbeat music playing softly in the background. It doesn't just sell food, it sells comfort. charm, and a sense of community. For decades, shoppers have trusted this chain not only for its unique snacks and affordable wines, but for creating an atmosphere that feels far removed from the cold, sterile aisles of typical supermarkets. But in 2025, that image is starting to crack, especially when it comes to the one thing that should never be questionable meat. Landing squarely at number 2 on our list, Trader Joe's is facing growing backlash over serious concerns surrounding its fresh meat selection. And this isn't just about 1 or 2 bad batches, it's a troubling pattern that signals deeper problems in how the company sources, stores, and presents its meat to unsuspecting shoppers. The biggest issue, a wall of secrecy. While many traditional grocery chains proudly display supplier information, giving shoppers a sense of where their meat comes from, Trader Joe's hides behind private branding. Labels like Trader Joe's, Trader Ming's, or Trader Giotto's might sound playful, but when applied to meat products, they raise a red flag. Customers have no idea who raised the animal, what kind of farm it came from, or whether basic health and safety standards were followed. That's not charming, it's evasive. It's like trusting a handshake from someone who won't even look you in the eye. This lack of transparency becomes even more alarming when paired with repeated customer complaints across online forums, social media, and review sites. Shoppers have sounded the alarm about spoiled meat. Boneless, skinless chicken breasts have been the worst offenders, looking fine at purchase, but turning rancid within a day, sometimes even a few hours, after being brought home. The disappointment isn't just emotional, it's financial and physical. Wasted money, lost meals, and, most worrying, the risk of foodborne illness. Even worse are the pre-marinated meat options once considered a convenient shortcut to weeknight dinners. But beneath the sauces and seasonings, many customers have discovered grisly surprises, rubbery textures, foul smells, and cuts so tough they're barely edible. The marinade seems to serve less as flavor enhancement and more as camouflage, masking meat that may have already begun to spoil. It's like putting perfume on garbage, it doesn't fix the problem. And then there's the cooling system. Unlike most big-name chains that use enclosed refrigeration units to keep meats cold and safe, Trader Joe's often uses open-air coolers that may look inviting but fail to maintain stable temperatures. A thermal scan in 2024 by a consumer safety group found fluctuations of up to 9 degrees in a single case. That may not sound like much, but in the world of meat safety, it's a ticking time bomb. Bacteria love warm, unstable environments, and they grow fast. Packaging doesn't help, either. Customers have reported opening vacuum-sealed packs of ground meat to find slimy textures, off smells, and a pool of suspicious liquid inside. These are clear signs of temperature mishandling or aging meat being passed off as fresh, for a brand built on trust. This level of inconsistency feels more like a betrayal than an accident. Trader Joe's has defended its reputation by citing high standards and long-standing supplier relationships, but they've also refused to name those suppliers or offer more detailed sourcing information. The excuse that doing so would hand competitors an advantage. But to most shoppers, especially older Americans with health concerns, that explanation rings hollow. When it comes to the safety of what we put in our bodies, secrets should have no place. To their credit, many frozen meat items at Trader Joe's have fared better. Frozen processing tends to preserve freshness and prevent bacteria from spreading, but that only highlights the core problem, inconsistency. And inconsistency is exactly what shoppers, especially those trying to eat safely on a fixed income, cannot afford. So while the frozen aisle and cheese section may still be safe bets, the fresh meat at Trader Joe's has become a dangerous gamble. For a store that promises warmth, honesty, and quality, serving up questionable chicken is a betrayal that even the friendliest staff and snappiest Hawaiian shirts can't cover up. Number 3. Walmart. Stepping into a Walmart store often feels like stepping into a promise. Bright lights, wide aisles, and rows of yellow price tags seem to say, you can feed your family and still make rent. For millions of Americans, especially retirees, working parents, and those on fixed incomes, that promise has been a lifeline. But in 2025, beneath that reassuring glow, a darker truth is beginning to surface. Because what if the meat you're relying on to nourish your family is quietly becoming the most dangerous item in your cart? Walmart, the nation's largest retailer, serves more than 240 million customers every single week through over 4,700 stores across the country. It is an empire built on low prices and massive scale, but it's also become notorious for something far more unsettling, selling some of the worst quality meat in the country. And this year, it has earned a spot near the top of the list for one reason that can't be ignored: rising food safety concerns. Throughout the year 2024, customer complaints about Walmart's meat flooded social media and consumer protection channels. In states like Texas, Florida, and California, shoppers shared shocking photos of meat that looked like it belonged in a high school science lab. Not a dinner plate, gray ground beef, chicken breasts with an oily, rainbow-colored film, pork chops with a smell so strong they had to be double-bagged just to get them home. Many shoppers began comparing the experience to Russian roulette, where the price of a mistake wasn't just wasted money, it was a trip to the emergency room. So what's behind this disturbing trend at its core? It's Walmart's relentless focus on driving down costs. That low sticker price comes with a high hidden price tag: reduced quality. To meet bargain-level pricing, Walmart partners with suppliers who often operate on razor-thin margins, meaning they cut corners wherever possible. Meat frequently arrives at Walmart stores already hovering near its sell-by date, giving customers a razor-thin window to cook or freeze it. Sometimes, by the time you finish putting away your groceries, that fresh meat is already starting to turn, and the problem goes deeper. A 2024 independent food safety audit revealed that nearly 23% of meat samples collected from Walmart stores showed early signs of spoilage, nearly double the national industry average of 12%. That means 1 out of every 4 packages may already be breaking down when you pick it up. And yet, many of these products remain on shelves, unlabeled and uninspected. The issue isn't just spoilage, it's also the chain's logistical breakdown. Walmart's once celebrated distribution system is now showing signs of strain. Delays in transport, inadequate refrigeration during shipping, and longer than acceptable shelf times mean meat is spending too much time in limbo. Steaks sit too long in trucks. Chicken waits too long to be restocked. The result: by the time it reaches you, it may have already begun to decay. Packaging is another weak link. Customers frequently report torn or leaking meat packs that drip into grocery bags, contaminating other foods. It's not just gross, it's dangerous. One shopper described opening their trunk to find their entire bag soaked in liquid from a leaking tray of hamburger meat. It smelled like something died in there, they said. That's not dinner, that's a biohazard. What makes matters worse is Walmart's reliance on prepackaged meats. Unlike traditional grocery stores with in-house butchers, Walmart rarely has trained staff handling the product. Cuts come pre-cut, pre-packaged, and pre-shipped. If something arrives spoiled, there's often no one on-site qualified to catch the problem. It just gets placed on the shelf. And then there are those yellow markdown stickers meant to signal a deal, but often hiding a darker truth. Discolored meat, pooling blood, strange odors, all still marked reduced for quick sale. But as the saying goes, if it smells like a problem, it probably is. Cheap meat that's about to expire isn't a bargain, it's a risk. To be fair, Walmart has promised to reform. Executives point to new guidelines, supplier audits, and improved inventory tracking. But by mid-year 2025, the reality in many stores tells another story. Spoiled meat is still making it to shelves, and the people who depend on Walmart the most, especially older Americans, low-income families, and rural shoppers are the ones most at risk, because meat isn't just food, it's health, it's safety, it's peace of mind. And when a piece of meat goes bad, the consequences aren't theoretical, they're real, they're immediate, and they're dangerous. So if you find yourself standing in front of a freezer at Walmart, staring at that tempting rollback deal, take a moment, ask yourself if that ground beef is really worth the gamble, because at the end of the day, no savings are worth trading your health or your safety. Number 4, Target. Target has built a reputation on aesthetics. Shiny floors, modern lighting, stylish displays that make every aisle feel like a curated showroom. It's the kind of store that makes you feel smart just for walking in, but that polished experience, the branding, the music, the perfectly placed signage hides a growing concern that too many shoppers only discover after it's too late. In 2025, Target's meat department, especially its chicken products, has emerged as a surprising weak spot. Behind the clean facade is a troubling truth: the meat may not be nearly as safe as it looks. Let's start with the basics. Target was never designed to be a grocery destination. Its foundation lies in clothing, electronics, and home goods, not perishable food. When it added groceries to compete with full-service supermarkets, it skipped the most essential part of that upgrade, building a dedicated cold chain infrastructure. And in the meat world, that's not optional, it's survival. Expecting Target to run a safe meat department without it is like hiring a barista to run a surgical unit. They may be friendly, but they're not trained for that kind of responsibility. The store's private label, Good and Gather, is front and center in this issue. Many of Target's chicken products marinated, pre-cut, or sold plain are sourced from the same facilities that supply deep discount grocery chains. But at Target, the packaging is more attractive and the price is higher. Same meat, new label. That sleek red logo doesn't change what's inside. Even worse, many of these products carry claims like no added hormones, which sounds impressive until you realize it's meaningless. Federal law already bans hormones in poultry, so in effect, you're paying extra for something that's legally required anyway. But sourcing is only half the problem. The real danger lies in how the meat is handled once it hits the store. Unlike traditional grocery stores with trained meat department staff, Target relies on general employees to stock and manage perishable food. One day, someone might be arranging throw pillows in home decor. The next, they're placing raw chicken in a cooler. That lack of training isn't just inefficient, it's risky. Chicken is highly sensitive. Mishandling by even a few degrees or hours can turn a harmless dinner into a health emergency. And those pre-marinated chicken packs that sound like a dinner shortcut, they might be hiding more than flavor. Marinades like garlic herb or lemon pepper can cover the early signs of spoilage discoloration, unpleasant odors, or a slimy texture. You may not notice a thing until it's too late. It's like using air freshener to hide a mold problem. The scent changes, but the danger remains. Even the refrigeration itself is suspect. Target's display cases are designed for mixed-use fruit, cheese, deli, and meat all in one unit. That makes for attractive merchandising, but poor temperature consistency. Studies from late 2024 found that Target's poultry often sat several degrees above the federally recommended safe zone. It may not seem like much, but in the world of foodborne bacteria, even a few degrees matter. They mean the difference between dinner and disaster. One of the most alarming practices: thawed chicken, labeled and sold as fresh. Many shoppers have no idea that what they're buying has already been frozen, defrosted, and repackaged, with no visible indication of its freezing history. Customers are left in the dark, assuming they're getting something fresh, when in fact, they're not. This isn't just misleading, it's dangerous. Defrosted chicken must be cooked quickly, and when it's sold under false pretenses, it turns into a ticking clock of bacterial risk. In the end, shopping at Target feels safe. It's clean, pleasant, and perfectly lit. But when it comes to meat, especially chicken, don't let the aesthetics fool you. The risk is real, and no amount of interior design can protect you from what's happening behind the scenes. If food safety matters to you and for parents, older adults, or anyone with a compromised immune system, you might want to think twice before trusting that red bullseye with your next dinner. Number 5. Food Lion. Step into a Food Lion and you might feel a sense of familiarity. Clean floors, friendly greetings, the buzz of fluorescent lights above tidy aisles. But make your way to the meat department, specifically the chicken section, and that comfort begins to fade. What looks like a standard grocery setup starts to feel more like a neglected corner of the store. In 2025, Food Lion's poultry aisle has become a quiet source of concern for shoppers who know that with raw chicken. Almost good enough isn't good enough at all. The biggest red flag: refrigeration, or the lack of it. Many Food Lion locations still rely on outdated coolers and meat cases that haven't been modernized in years. Former employees have joked that the equipment belongs in a retail museum, nestled somewhere between old cash registers and dusty price tag guns. But there's nothing funny about refrigeration failures when it comes to raw poultry. Even a slight rise in temperature can create a perfect breeding ground for bacteria like Salmonella or Campylobacter, and in many Food Lion stores, that slight rise is a regular occurrence. The problem doesn't stop at the store level, it runs deep into the supply chain. Several of Food Lion's distribution centers in the southeastern United States have been cited for temperature violations during transport. These are supposed to be the backbone of the cold chain, ensuring that meat stays chilled from processing plant to shelf. But when that chain breaks, even briefly, bacterial growth can begin before the chicken ever reaches your local store. Imagine buying food that's already had a head start on going bad before you even pick it up off the shelf. And when the chicken finally does arrive, that's when another layer of risk begins. Former employees report that during busy hours, boxes of raw chicken often sit in rolling carts in the back room, sometimes for hours. Not yet cold enough to be safe, but not quite spoiled enough to be discarded. This temperature limbo zone is where pathogens thrive. It's not just sloppy, it's dangerous. And most customers have no idea it's happening just a few steps from the display case. Packaging is another concern. Some chicken comes pre-sealed from suppliers. Other times, store staff wrap it by hand with whatever materials happen to be on hand. That inconsistency may not seem like a big deal, but it matters. A meat safety report from 2023 revealed that Food Lion had one of the highest rates of meat spoilage complaints per store among national grocery chains. That's not just bad luck, that's a symptom of systemic oversight failures. And then there are the deals, those frequent 3-day meat sales that fill the weekly flyer with promises of savings. On the surface, they look like great promotions, but to some seasoned shoppers, they raise red flags. Is it a sale or a last-minute push to unload meat nearing its expiration date? It's hard to know, but either way, it doesn't inspire confidence in the quality of what's being sold. Employee training, or the lack thereof, is yet another problem. Many staff members rotate between departments, and turnover is high. Few receive adequate instruction in how to recognize signs of spoilage, how to rotate stock properly, or how to maintain strict sanitation standards. As one former worker bluntly put it, the training was barely enough to build an IKEA shelf, except now we're handling food that could actually make people sick. To be fair, Food Lion still serves a purpose. In rural communities and small towns, it's often one of the few grocery options available. But convenience doesn't excuse compromise. And when it comes to raw chicken, a product so prone to contamination, it's not enough for a store to just get by. Shoppers deserve to know that what they're putting on the table won't send them or their families to the ER. At Food Lion, unfortunately, the signs are clear old equipment. Weak oversight, inconsistent packaging, and minimal training have created an environment where safety feels like an afterthought, and when the stakes are as high as foodborne illness. That's a risk no family should have to take. Number 6. Save-A-Lot. Save-A-Lot has always catered to the budget-conscious, the families watching every penny, the seniors trying to stretch their retirement checks, the everyday shoppers who rely on low prices just to keep food on the table, with nearly 900 stores operating in the United States. Especially in working-class neighborhoods and underserved areas, this chain has become a fixture for affordable groceries. But in 2025, its reputation for deep discounts is colliding with a growing problem. In the meat department, saving a lot might cost far more than you bargained for. Their motto, "Discount done right," suggests trust and competence, but when it comes to meat, a disturbing pattern is emerging, one that leaves shoppers with spoiled food, wasted money, and serious health concerns. A nationwide survey conducted in 2024, polling 5,000 consumers, ranked Save-A-Lot dead last among major grocery chains for meat quality. Their score a dismal 2.1 out of 5 stars. It wasn't even close. On review sites and across social media, stories flood in. Customers report opening packages of ground beef that are gray, slimy, or tinged green. Some find chicken leaking cloudy liquid, or pork chops that smell sour straight out of the package days before the expiration date. It's become a game of chance with poor odds, and the prize might just be food poisoning. Much of this stems from how Save-A-Lot sources its meat. Unlike traditional grocers with established supplier contracts, Save-A-Lot frequently turns to secondary markets, buying leftover or aging inventory from larger processors at deep discounts. This practice cuts costs. Yes, but it also introduces meat that may have already passed through several storage facilities before it reaches your local shelf. Oversight is minimal. Freshness is often already compromised before the package hits the cooler. And those coolers, that's another story. In 2024 alone, health department records from 7 states show Save-A-Lot stores received temperature violation citations at more than double the industry average. One food inspector compared their refrigeration systems to springtime weather, unpredictable and unstable. In some stores, freezer units cycled so frequently between too warm and too cold that it was nearly impossible to maintain safe temperatures. Meat that's constantly shifting between thawed and frozen is not just unpleasant, it's dangerous. But the real wake-up call came with 3 separate product recalls within just 6 months. The most serious involved ground beef contaminated with E. coli, which sickened at least 17 people across 4 states. That kind of lapse doesn't just point to bad luck, it suggests systemic negligence. And yet, instead of overhauling procedures, Save-A-Lot doubled down on markdowns. Their manager special stickers, once seen as a smart shopper's friend, are now viewed by many as a red flag. Too often, these bright labels are slapped on meat nearing its expiration, or worse meat that already shows signs of spoilage, to a busy parent on a tight budget. The deal might seem too good to pass up, but behind the discount is a gamble, one that too often ends in disappointment or illness. Even loyal customers are walking away. A consumer behavior study from early 2025 found that 64% of regular Save-A-Lot shoppers now buy their meat elsewhere, even if it means driving farther or spending more. That kind of shift speaks volumes. People are willing to sacrifice time and convenience just to feel safer about the food they're serving their families. To be fair, Save-A-Lot still holds value for dry goods, canned food, and household staples. But when it comes to meat, the risk is simply too high. With poor sourcing, unreliable refrigeration, and repeated food safety failures, the meat aisle has become a section many shoppers now actively avoid in today's world. Food safety is non-negotiable, especially for older Americans and families with limited healthcare access. So the next time you push a cart through Save-A-Lot, think twice before heading to the coolers, because some savings simply aren't worth the cost. As we conclude our countdown of grocery stores with questionable meat quality, remember this knowledge is power. Being an informed shopper means looking past the shiny discounts and colorful packaging to understand what you're truly bringing into your home. Especially when it comes to meat, the food that directly fuels your family's health and safety, cheap isn't always worth the risk. Choose wisely, eat safely, and don't be afraid to ask the tough questions.